Hey, I'm Vincent Smith. This is another unboxing with an engineer, and it is time to get wise about your security. I can't do it, it's just freaking corny. All right, let's get you down here on the workbench so you can see what I'm opening up. You may have already figured it out from my goofball introduction here. I'm gonna get you down here pretty close because these are some smaller items. Yeah, I already opened a box. I had to get one of these out and test it, but also had to rip all the stickers off. So here we go. Now, you know I'm a stickler for packing, and I gotta tell you, they did include some bubble wrap in here, and it's the heavy duty bubble wrap, but they just kind of threw two sheets on it on the top of these three little boxes in here, and could have done a little better, yeah, but these little boxes, and you'll see as we open one up, they're actually quite sturdy little boxes, and they're packed in such a way, they're packed in there in such a way that the box itself provides enough protection for the shipping. So we're not going to harp on that any. I'm going to set a couple of these aside. I did buy 3 of them to replace 3 of the outside cameras on my house, which I already have the version 2. This is the Wyze Cam Indoor-Outdoor V3. I don't know where it says V3 right there. Wyze Cam V3. This is a wired version. They have an unwired version. I don't recommend that one because it's got a battery, and you got to, well, batteries need to be recharged. And because it has a battery, they were overly zealous, I think, with the battery optimization to the point where I'm just not sure that the outdoor version really does that much good if you're looking for full-time security. Now, yeah, if you're going camping and you need something to take with you for whatever reason, again, I don't have one, so I can't talk about that one, but I kind of wonder if a trail cam might do you better. But let's open this up. I have several of these things around the house, and I think they work so well that I, bought 3 more. Got a quick start guide right in the top of the box, which my fingers are having trouble with. Now, I've used these enough to where I don't really need to read these quick start guides. It's got a bunch of lawyer crap on there, and then here's the actual, here's how you install this and set it up to talk to your app. Okay, there it is, right there in the top. You have the V3 Wyze Cam. It has what I would consider an improved form factor just from its appearance. Let's get this stuff all laid out here and show you everything that's in the box before we talk too much about the camera. There it goes. So we get a sticker. Not real sure what we're going to do with that. You might wonder what the red donut is for, but that is for this little metal disc they send with each one of these. And this is some 3M two-way tape. And you can stick this little metal disc on the wall, and look, this has a magnetic base on it to where anywhere you can screw up one of these discs, you can stick a camera, or you can just stick this thing on your refrigerator, your water heater, and it won't stick to the gutters on your house. Trust me, they're all aluminum. It's got a power cord that comes with it. Let's see how long this thing is, because I don't remember. I know you can't see what I'm doing, but I'm stretching out. It's about 6 feet long. It's probably 2 meters, metrics taking over everything. There's a 1,000 milliamp power supply that comes with this. I have, I think, somewhere around 10 or 11 of these cameras so far. Yeah, don't give me any jive about that, because the wife already does. But I have not had a single one of these go out. They are UL listed power supplies, so they're probably going to hold up pretty good. I have no qualms with the power supply. Comes with a couple of screws and a couple of drywall anchors so that you can attach this to your drywall or anywhere you might want to hang it up. And that was just a rubber band on the power cord and the requisite cat killer gel. All right, so the camera itself, let's get rid of that, now let's do this first. Here's the V2. This is the V2, this is the V3. Roughly the same size. I think there is a minor millimeter-ish difference in the sizes of these. and I can't actually see it. So now the V2 was a very good camera. Don't get me wrong. It had a magnetic base as well, but you can see there, okay, it doesn't do quite as well as the V3. I think the V3's magnet is a bit better magnet. You'll also notice that, let's look at these, the backs of these. Now here's the biggest difference you're going to see. Well, there's two major differences. This is the one that will let you use this camera outside. Now I've used a few of these cameras outside for over a year and didn't lose any of them. They're all still working, but you can see the power port on these are open and exposed. Now, the one advantage the V2 has over the V3 is you can see that there are two USB plugs there to where you can daisy chain these. You can power one off the next, and you can wire one to the next. Now, I don't think you can do more than 2 or 3 in a row. I don't remember. But that is an advantage. It's a slight advantage. I don't think it's enough of an advantage to care about. The advantage really needs to go to the V3 because you can see that there is a pigtail power cord, and I don't say embedded, but it's made right into the back of the camera here. And the advantage there is that the V3 has an IP65 splash-proof weather rating, so that you can put this camera outside and not have to worry about how the weather affects it, which also means that it can withstand temperature extremes from -4 degrees Fahrenheit to 113 degrees Fahrenheit. Now, here in Virginia, that doesn't really mean a lot, but if you're living out in Arizona or New Mexico, that 113 number might mean something to you. Now, I did not mount any of these V2s outside in a location that was directly exposed to the weather. I have a couple that are up under eaves and well tucked into the house and as high up as I can get them to where they didn't get hit by direct rain. But the couple that I have outside that were not in such a beneficial location, you had to buy these little birdhouses, and these were available all over Amazon, and several different people carried them, and they seem to work pretty well. Would I say this is a really high quality item? No, not really. I mean, but it does the job. You can see that once you put the camera in there, there's no rubber gasket around this, so that long enough, heavy enough rain, downpour, throw it in the swimming pool. I mean, water's getting in this thing. But they did think ahead enough to put this little hump in the back of the housing here. And you can see it lines up with where the power plug is, to where you can't daisy chain when you've got this on there, but you can run one wire in here and power this camera. And then the cord actually comes out a hole here in the bottom. And as long as you leave a drip loop in the bottom of that cord and come back up, and what I did was wrap them around the mount here and then run it into the house, I didn't have any problems, but I also didn't put it somewhere it's going to get directly rained on. I'll put a link to this housing in the description down below. While you're clicking around down there, hit the subscribe button so you can see more of these videos. Again, not a high-end item, but it's done the job. I've got, I think, 3 of these outside. They've been out there for about 1.5 years. Haven't had an issue with them, so I can recommend it. So one thing I did also, where I put a lot of these cameras around the outside of the house, and you've got to run power to each one of them, and then you've got to put, you know, a transformer on the end of this little power block, like your cell phone charger. I thought, man, that's a lot of those little things to plug in. So I bought one of these from Amazon. This is an Anker product. I've had a lot of good luck with Anker products, but this is a USB power bank. So I put one of these in the attic, and I can power 6 cameras from it. I'll put a link to this down below. I also bought some, I think they're 25-foot long USB-A to micro USB cords. And so I didn't use the Wyze cords that came with it. I used those and just ran these to every camera. Worked great. You can see it uses just, you know, your regular TV or computer power plug. It did come with a cord. I just didn't want to pull it down out of the attic to show you. So I'll drop links to both of those down below. So let's move on to some spec comparison here, and let's start off with the price. When I bought these cameras, and I'm going to round up here, I'm not going to get you down to the penny, but this camera cost me $25. This camera has some significant improvements and cost me $25. If you buy them directly from Wyze's website, they're $20 plus $5 shipping. If you drive down to Home Depot or click on the Amazon and buy this, it's $25. So you're going to pay $25 for these cameras. I'm impressed that they made the improvements in this camera that they did and kept the price point at exactly the same spot. Thank you, Wyze. Resolution, 1080 HD with 110-degree field of view. 1080 HD with 130-degree field of view. So not a huge improvement in field of view, but enough. You're going to notice when I show you some comparisons, I'm going to actually take down one of these and put one of these up in exactly the same spot and show you the difference in the field of view. This camera, the V2, shot 15 frames per second during the day and 10 frames per second at night. This camera shoots 20 frames per second all the time from what I can tell from their website. They did not specify between night and day, so I'm assuming this is 25 frames per second all day, all night. The lens on this camera is an f2.0 lens, whereas the V3 is an f1.6. Now, for those of you that aren't, the camera files like I am, basically that means the aperture is the hole that lets the light in towards the sensor. The aperture on this camera lets in twice as much light. Letting in twice as much light gives you twice as better of a picture with less light. So now I did not find the specs for the sensor in this camera, but I can tell you the V2 was a 2.9 CMOS sensor. I'm assuming this is the same or better because it does have some improvements in the night vision, so I can't imagine the same sensor is in here. If I find it, I'll put a blurb right down here that tells you what it is. Now, the V3 has a starlight sensor in it now, which I'm going to show you some examples of that, and you're going to be amazed at how good that starlight sensor does at night. It improves the sensitivity of this camera by 250%. I'm sorry, by 2,500%, 25 times better night light sensitivity without having to, put a light on your subject. This just works off the ambient starlight. They both have IR sensors if you want to use the IR camera in here. Once you see the starlight version of this camera, you're not going to ever turn that IR on again. The V2 has an 850 nanometer, 850 nanometer IR diodes, where the V3 has 4 850 nanometer diodes and 4 940 nanometer diodes. Now you might sit there and say, well, that's a lot of mumbo jumbo that doesn't really mean much. It does have an effect. The 850 nanometer IR diodes are the little red dots around the camera that you see lit up at night when you look at it. So someone can look up at there and go, oh, there's a camera up there. The 940 nanometer diodes in the V3 are not visible to the naked eye. The visible spectrum is 390 nanometers to 700 nanometers, but you can still see the 850 nanometer diodes. I don't really know why. I don't know if it's the heat you see from it or what, but unfortunately though, the 940 nanometer diodes, they are 50% less effective. So they don't work as good. Now, my suspicion is that when you turn on the infrared camera in these, you can turn off the IR diodes to where you use the infrared features just from ambient infrared light. I think when you turn off the IR diodes in this camera, I suspect the 940 nanometer diodes stay on. And so it's less effective, but at least there's still some infrared light being shined on your subject. So I think that's what's going on, but I couldn't find any confirmation of that. The weight, the V2 is 100 grams, the V3 is 98.8 grams, 0.2 grams. I don't even know why I bothered talking about that. They both have circuits and sensors in here to detect smoke alarms and carbon monoxide alarm alerts. Those things nowadays, the older ones, I don't think they do it, but nowadays they emit a certain pattern or something that can trigger an alarm in here. And then these things send a signal to your Wyze account, and it triggers your phone and says, hey, there's a smoke alarm going off in your house, which is important because something that Wyze just started offering is a home monitoring service. I think it's like $60 a year maybe, and they will monitor, your cameras and some other things. I don't know all the details yet, and I'm not going to get into that because we're talking about the cameras. But just so that you know that either one of these cameras can now, through a subscription service with Wyze, send the police and fire department to your house when you're not home, just like any other home security monitoring system. They both have access to Wyze's Cam Plus, which is a service that is either $1.99 per camera per month or $1.25 per camera per month if you pay annually in one shot. These cameras come free with remote recording of what they call an event. If something triggers an event in your camera, it uploads a short clip. I think it's a 12-second clip. Yeah, it's a 12-second clip, uploads into the cloud. You have access to it from your account, so it's not stored on the camera. But unfortunately, if you don't buy the Cam Plus service, there's a 5-minute cooldown period. So basically that 12-second clip stops no matter what, and then it won't upload another clip for 5 minutes, and then it'll upload another 12-second, and then it's off for the 5 minutes. Now, you can also record locally with an SD card, the V2. You can see the card slot right there. It's exposed. In the V3, they did put a rubber cover over it, so that's where your SD card would go. Now, if you put an SD card in there, it will record locally continuously, or it'll only record events, however you want to set that up. But the advantage of the Cam Plus, now, yes, it's a pay-for service, but you get unlimited motion recording with the Cam Plus service. Anything moves in front of the camera, it'll continuously upload that video to the cloud. You have access to it, and it stores it for 2 weeks. Now, there's also person detection included with the Cam Plus service. When I first bought the Cam 2, the person detection was built into the firmware in the camera, and unfortunately, Wyze had bought that or leased it or had an agreement with a company to use it, and then that company got bought. I'm pretty sure it was by Apple, and they yanked it. They said, nope, can't use it anymore. And all of a sudden, your person detection shut off, and this thing was just, it was still a good camera, but it couldn't tell you when there was a person in the yard compared to a dog or a leaf blowing by. So the Cam Plus brings back the person detection, but it's a paid-for service. Now, $1.99 a month is pretty cheap. I realize it ain't free, but it sure ain't that much to get person detection. Person detection in the V3 is not yet as good as the old person detection was with the V2 cameras. It's pretty good, and it's getting better with every update. So I think Wyze will eventually get back to where they were with the original person detection. Don't let that put you off from it. Some of the promised improvements to the Cam Plus service are face detection, pet detection, and package detection. Now, package detection is important because they also have a doorbell, like a Ring competitor doorbell. They have a Wyze doorbell coming out next month, and it's going to tell you when there's a package on your porch. So I think that'll help. I'm not sure it's worth paying for just for that, but now the one improvement also that we haven't talked about with these cameras is there are speakers and microphones in these cameras. So if there's someone in front of the camera, you can talk to them. But the V3's improvement is there's duplex comms with that simultaneously, whereas with this one, you had to push a button on your app to speak and then let go, and then you could hear them, kind of a walkie-talkie sort of deal almost. Where at the V3, it's simultaneous duplex. You can just click the button, turn it on, you can talk back and forth. The V3 also has an 80 decibel siren. It's okay. I mean, it gets someone's attention. Now, it's not going to, wake up your neighbors 3 doors down and tell them someone's breaking in your car, but it's something, and I think it's a good improvement. The other thing that's promised for the V3 is a spotlight attachment. Somehow or another, they're coming out with, this isn't it. This is a little GoPro light I have, but they have something that's going to clip on top of this camera. I don't know if it'll be, something small like that, but it's going to have a little light on there that I'm sure will be able to act like a motion sensor light. When someone's in front of the camera, it can turn the light on. Now, I'm going to tell you, when you see the examples here in a little bit of the Starlight camera in here, you're going to go, yeah, we don't need a light with that. I also will show you a video here in a little bit of some guys in my driveway trying to break in my car. And when my motion lights turned on, they didn't even look up. They just kept on trying to break into the car. I mean, criminals have evolved now, kind of like roaches. The bug spray just don't kill them anymore. And they realize that motion lights are just, something that's there and nobody's watching it. So when one trips on, they don't even flinch. So you need to get yourself some cameras around your house to keep an eye on your place, keep your family safe. Notifications. These will send notifications to your phone telling you, hey, something made a noise in your basement, or, something moved in your back stairwell, something moved in your attic. They have on the app, there are detection zones where on the camera, you can see right here, you're on the camera, you can pick out a rectangle on there and say, okay, I only want notifications about this area of the screen. Now, unfortunately, it's a good thing. It works pretty good. Unfortunately, it has to be a rectangle. So if you have a road going through your camera at a funny angle like this, and you want notification when somebody walks up and down the sidewalk in front of your house, well, if you draw a rectangle, you're going to get the road, and you're also going to get notification every time a car goes by. So it would be nice if you could just paint the detection area with your finger on the screen, and Wyze hasn't done that yet. I think it may be something they're working on. Don't know the answer to that. Both of these cameras have smart home integration through Alexa and Google Assistant. I'm using and I just said Google, so my phone said, what do you want? Shut that off. I'm using Alexa. I'm having okay luck with it because I've integrated these cameras with some Treatlife products I have in my house. I have their 110 volt light switches and some of their light bulbs. I also have some Wyze bulbs, which I'll talk about in a minute. I don't know where the problem lies. I don't know if it's Wyze, Alexa, or Treatlife, but I can't always get the lights in the house to turn off when the motion in the room stops. So I'm working on that. If I figure out a solution, I'll make another video about it. So you can integrate these into your entire smart home system if you have one through Alexa or Google Assistant. When I first bought the version 2, it integrated through IFT. They have now removed that, and I was a little upset about it at first because I was very heavily integrated into IFT myself. But then just a few weeks later, I found out that I got an email from IFT said, hey, guess what? You got to pay for this now. So I said, nope, I'm out. Now, before I go in, I'm going to give you some clips of the V2 versus V3, daytime, nighttime, and we're going to talk about those in the rest of this video. But before that, I want to talk to you about why I started installing these cameras in the house. About a year and a half ago, there was a shooting at work, and I was lucky enough to be one of the survivors of that incident. But I did not sleep. I barely slept for weeks after that because I was just worried, if that's going to happen at work, what's going to happen at home? So I got a bunch of these cameras, installed them around the house, and didn't fix my problem, but I did start getting more sleep. So I want to thank Wyze for that. I'm not trying to be a tearjerker here, but I want to explain to you why. Yeah, I've got like a dozen of these cameras around the house. Well, I'm not just a paranoid idiot. I just needed that to be able to sleep at night. But a couple of months later, after I installed these around the house, woke up in the morning and there's notifications on your phone, and you can set up however many notifications you want. There was a notification that there was a person in my driveway in the middle of the night. And I said, well, what's that about? And I clicked the button, and there's some cat walked right up in my driveway and tried to open the doors on both of our vehicles. And here's the video of that. And this is the part where I told you that the guy was not the least bit affected by the motion lights on the front of the garage that flip on right in the middle of him trying to break into my truck. So I'm glad I had the cameras. I'm glad our vehicles were locked that night. There were some folks in the neighborhood who were not so lucky. But I could not make out the guy's face. Now I got to give you that on this camera from about, I guess it was about 15 feet away at the most, you could not make out the guy's face. So that I believe that with this camera, I'd be able to get a good mugshot of that cat and get his picture out all over the place and maybe figure out who he was. So now we're going to go and show you some video. First off, we're going to show you here is that same shot of the driveway. So now here's me standing in the same spot where the guy was trying to break into our cars with the V2. And this has the V2 with the infrared lights on. Now here's the V3 with no infrared lights on. Now here's the V3 with the infrared lights on. Now here is the V3 with the starlight sensor on. Look at that. It's a color picture. It looks like daytime. I don't know why they even bothered putting the infrared diodes and the night vision in this, because with this starlight sensor, I don't think you're ever going to turn that stuff on. Now, this is in an area where I have, after that guy tried to break into my truck and my wife's car, I set the light on the front of the garage to, it just stays on all night now. So that, this is a lit area. So now we're going to go around to the side of the house, and here is me standing in front of the V2 from about 15, 20 feet away with the infrared sensors on. Now here's the V3 camera with the infrared sensors off. And here's the V3 with the infrared sensors on, infrared diode. Now here's the V3 with the starlight sensor mode turned on.
Much better, it's color, and this is me talking in a normal voice.
It's just night and day practically. I mean, this looks like it was taken in the daytime. So now I'm also going to show you one more shot here from a camera that is inside the house, pointed out at the front yard through a window. Now this is the V2 with the infrared diodes off. But now look what happens when you turn the infrared diodes on. The camera's just blinded. The infrared just reflects off the glass right back into the camera lens, and you're just completely blinded. So now I've set a V3 right beside this V2, and here it is with the infrared sensors off in the infrared mode. But now here it is looking through the glass window with the starlight mode. Now you can see in the starlight mode, you can see through the glass, you can see very well into the front yard. So even if you don't have somewhere to hang one of these cameras outside, you can put them inside, just shining through the window. And I'm actually waiting for Wyze or someone on Amazon to come out with some kind of a suction cup mount that this thing just pops into a suction cup, maybe about this big around. And then it creates a seal around here somehow or another, a suction cup on each side where this thing just sticks on a window and points outwards. So if anybody's watching and you got a 3D printer, go get you a patent or something. One thing I did after that guy tried to break into our vehicles, I bought some Wyze light bulbs, the smart light bulbs, and I put them in on our nightstands in our bedroom. And I created a rule in the Wyze app that said, hey, if you detect a person in any of the outdoor cameras between these hours, I think it was like, 10:30 to 6 a.m. at night, turn this light bulb on full brightness. And well, it has tripped a few times. Now, those have been false alarms, but not enough false alarms for me to care about. It might happen every 3 months, but someday something's going to happen and I'm going to get a little early warning of it just because I set that rule up in the Wyze app. So that's really all I've got to say about the Wyze Cam V3. I'm going to install 3 of these, and I may do an update video a few months down the road and let you know how it's going. But I'm very impressed with this. I have no reason to think that it's going to do any less well or perform any less than the V2 did. I was happy with these. I'm just getting that much happier with these. So I appreciate you watching. Make sure you subscribe down below so you can catch those updates when I let them out. I have plenty of other Wyze products on the way. I've early ordered one of the ring bell, not ring, can't say ring. I've ordered the Wyze doorbell, and I will also let you know how that works when it gets here. Appreciate you watching. Talk to you later.